Okay. All right. Well, welcome to today's session. I'm Despina Johnson. I'm the Chief Executive of Enterprise Enfield, and I'm really pleased to be able to bring this session to you. And it's effective writing for the web. And we're very lucky that Local London have funded this program through the London Development Hub. And it's I suppose the objective is to help businesses to recover from the dreadful impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, which obviously we're all still living through at the moment, unfortunately. I'd like to now introduce our expert speaker today and trainer, Lorraine Windsor, who will go through the presentation for you.
Thank you, Despina. It's good afternoon, everyone. Lovely to see you all here. I'm going to start sharing my screen. As Despina said, if you want to not be seen on the video, please just switch your cameras off. And if you don't mind, just muting your audio so that there are no phones ringing and so on. Okay, so I'm going to kick off with my presentation now. Just going to share my screen with you. Okay, can you see my screen okay? So I've got somebody saying chat. Yes, good, thank you. Right, okay, so this is a workshop on how to write effectively for the web. And just to give you an idea of what we're going to be covering, I'm going to talk to you about why writing for the web is different to the type of writing we might do ordinarily. I'm going to cover the impact of Brexit on our marketing. I'm going to show you how to use a keyword tool, how to write keyword optimized content for websites and blog posts, and also some tools that will help you monitor where you're coming up in searches. So, why is writing for the web different to what we normally do? So, if you think about it and you were writing for a magazine or an article for a publication, often when we write that kind of content, the detail is really important. Okay, so newspaper articles, books, white papers, we want a lot of detail in that kind of content. Whereas on the web, the audience wants something very different. They're often searching, they do, you know, we all say, let's Google it. My 86-year-old mum loves saying that to me. Just Google it, Lorraine, come on. We can find out the answer to that. And basically, we're looking for answers and we're looking for quick information. People don't want to hang around when they find what it is they're searching for. If they come to your website, they find information based on their search, they're going to leave quickly if the information isn't what they're looking for. So, some of the reasons you might write content for the web. So firstly, we use our web content to demonstrate expertise. What we want is to be known as industry experts in our fields. If people find you quicker in searches because they're typing in the kind of search terms that make you come up in their searches, it's more likely that they will start to trust you. When they find really good content that answers their questions, once they start to know you, they start to trust you, it's more likely they're going to think of you when they want your services, because people don't necessarily buy straight away, as we know. So you want to be the first company that people think of when they need your products or services. And writing fantastic content is a way of making sure that happens. Now, with Brexit looming as we speak, we might need to access new markets. And it's important to just think about the impact that Brexit's pretty much happened now. We need to understand what new markets might require from us in this new world. I mean, obviously we've got the pandemic, again, another new world we're all getting used to. But it's really important to understand what people's search behavior is going to be like as a result of Brexit. Brexit may result in a period of uncertainty for businesses. And so the businesses that adapt sooner rather than waiting too long to change their strategy and start thinking about what people are searching for in relation to what they do, the businesses that react sooner rather than later are going to have the competitive advantage. And if you want to break into new markets, for example, then understanding the search behavior of those markets is going to be key to your survival as a result of Brexit. So, we often write content on our websites, for example. Let's just start with our websites. Now, I always think of a website as a shop window. It shows people what we do, what we have, what we offer. And they tend to be very static. But often we write our websites on the basis of what we think people want to know about us. Now, there's a great guy that I follow quite a lot, and I read a lot of his content. He's called Andy Bounds, and he talks about afters. And so telling people the afters of what they're going to get as a result of buying from you, what their life is going to be like with you providing a service or with your products, thinking about that is a really good way to write. Often we write content that talks about us. It tells people who we are, how great we are, what we've done for other people. And actually, we tend to end up writing about things that we think people want to know. And actually, that's not an effective strategy. It's much more effective to answer the questions that people are typing into Google. What are people asking in relation to what you provide? And there are some really good tools here. I've got something called Answer the Public that I use extensively. And there's one called Search Volume, which tells you how many searches are taking place for a specific search. So basically what we're doing, we're really thinking about what people are typing in and trying to answer their questions. And if you answer the questions that people are typing in, then Google and people are finding you, then Google tends to think, well, people seem to like this content. They're clicking through to this content. Therefore, it must be useful. So I'm going to show this content to more people. Okay, so it helps you rank better in online searches. So I'm going to go over and show you how to use a keyword tool in a moment. But I just want to talk about the difference between websites and blogs. Now, as I said, a website tends to have very static content. We tend to tell people who we are and what we do and how experienced we are and what people are saying about us and all those kinds of things. And it tends to be more like a shop window for your products or services. Now, a blog, on the other hand, is what we call content marketing. And a blog, short for weblog, it tends to be articles or short stories, and it could even be things like a newsletter, it could be a journal, it could be even advice or tips. And the sorts of things that really work well are the kinds of things that tell people how to do something. Now, a blog, each individual post that you write is called the blog post. The body of work is called the blog. And people add to their blogs from anywhere between every day, some people add to them, and sometimes once a month. And my advice is not to set yourself up to fail if you're thinking about going down this road, but think about perhaps writing one a month to start with and then increasing it to 2. Your blogs can include videos, they can include images, and they can include audio. And generally speaking, the most recent posts are found at the top. Now, this is a really great way to answer people's questions by producing a blog and writing individual posts that answer those questions. I'm just going to show you what I'm talking about. So this tool here is called answerthepublic.com. I've got a paid version here, but I was using the free version up until last week. You can do about 1 or 2 searches a day on the free version. Okay, you'll probably not need to do many. It's just that I've got the paid version because I use it very frequently. Basically what you do is you type in to this tool what you do. Okay, so you can see they're giving you an example here of chocolate. Now, I tried this one out earlier, Brexit business. I'm going to type that in again. I'm going to click search, and I've basically refined it here for searches taking place in the United Kingdom. So what I'm asking of this piece of software is, what sort of searches are people typing in to the internet for Brexit business? And I'm asking it here where those searches are taking place in the United Kingdom only. Now I'm going to click on search, and it returns with these lovely graphical images. I love these sort of charts. And basically what it does is it tells you what the questions are using these words. So where, how, when, and so on. Okay. So how can Brexit affect business? What Brexit means for business? What Brexit means for UK business? How Brexit could change business in Britain, and so on. Okay. So these are the questions that people are typing in to Google. And this algorithm for this particular piece of software, it takes the suggested terms from Google as well. So I'll just go over to Google in a second and show you what I'm talking about. But basically, these are questions that people are typing in right now about Brexit and business in the UK. And if you scroll down, basically it's saying now there are prepositions. Prepositions are words that link our word, Brexit and business, to other words. Okay, so where there's for, where there's without or can, and so on. Okay, so these form part of the search. And then further down, we've got comparisons. And this is one of my favorite ones, which is the alphabetical. So it's basically taken our search term that we're interested in finding out what people are searching for, and it's giving us those search terms with the letters of the alphabet. So where that search term appears with words beginning with B, C, A, and so on. Okay, so a bunch of extra search terms. These aren't always particularly helpful because they tend to be quite generic searches. Okay, so I'm just going to scroll back up to the top, just so you know, you can download this as a comma-separated values file, which basically opens in Excel, and you'll have these questions all listed. And depending on what you type, you'll find that sometimes there are hundreds and hundreds of searches taking place. So the idea is to find out what people are searching for related to what you do, and then answer those questions through a content marketing strategy by writing blog posts. Now, let me show you what I'm talking about. So when I said it uses suggested terms from Google, so if I put my search term in here, Brexit business. Okay, so it's basically any of these suggested terms on Google are also current search terms. And what it's saying here is that these are, if I put a space in, similar kinds of searches, and some of these searches will be included in Answer the Public as well. Okay, and of course you can just do a search on Google and see what comes up. So if I put Brexit business and I enter that search term here, okay, if I put my cursor at the end of my search, I've got a list of suggested terms, search terms that people are currently searching for on Google. If I put my space in and I get some more here and I add letters of the alphabet, it will do a similar thing to Answer the Public as well. Okay, as you can see, and these are all current searches on Google. Now, if I decide I want to answer some of these questions, I might want to know next how many searches are taking place for those particular search terms. Now, just bear in mind, there is a Google Ads. They have a tool similar to the tools I've shown you today, but it tends to be tied up with their ads platform, and they try to start asking you to give your credit card number and that kind of thing. So I tend to use these tools rather than using Google AdWords, but you can use the Google AdWords account if you want to get similar search results. Right, so this one here is called searchvolume.io. Okay, searchvolume.io. This one, you can get your keywords. So if I go back to my answer, the public, how can Brexit affect business? What Brexit means for business? Just two of those, for example. So basically in here, let's just refresh this. It's just refreshing this. I'm just going to go back and grab some of those search terms. So how can Brexit affect business? I'm going to try that one. It's doing some verification on me. Basically what happens with this is that you type in each search term that you're interested in. Again, I would leave it as United Kingdom, and you can put up to 800 search terms that you might want to answer in here. And essentially it will tell you how many searches, if any, are taking place for that particular search term. Okay, I'm just going to try and bring that up again. Seems to be having a bit of a problem this afternoon. Here we go. Right, so I've put my search terms in here. So how can Brexit affect business? That's the first one. You don't have to worry about caps or lowercase. It doesn't matter what you type in. It's not case sensitive. What Brexit means for business. Okay, and if I downloaded this as a CSV, I could just copy it straight out of my spreadsheet. How could Brexit change business in Britain? Let's put a couple more in. How Brexit impacts business. Just one more. How Brexit affects business. Let's put it that way. Okay, so I'm only interested in searches that take place in the United Kingdom. So basically what I've done is I've got my search terms that people are searching for. I'm putting them into this tool, searchvolume.io, to find out how many searches are actually taking place. So I'm going to submit that. And basically what would happen is it would come up with a list here. Now, it doesn't mean if you don't get any results that there aren't searches taking place, because we already know that Answer the Public only gives you searches that are taking place now. It's just that it may not be that it's enough searches for them to count. Now, that's fine, because actually in many situations, it's better to use ones that don't have high search volumes. Because if you're using search terms that are having very high search numbers, then what will happen is, okay, so I've just put Brexit in on its own, which you'd expect to have searches. It's saying that on an average month, 1,900 searches are taking place, okay? But Brexit is a very generic term. By using ones that don't have very high search numbers, you're more likely to be able to come up quicker in searches. Now, if you decided that there were only maybe 10 people searching for one of these searches, then I would still answer that, because there's a much better chance of me coming up in a search for something that's been searched for 10 times than there is for something that's being searched for 20,000 times. Okay, because obviously people that are paying for Google AdWords are going to be paying for the more generic search terms so they can come up in searches. Now, if I had 10 more inquiries a month because I was answering a question that 10 people were asking, then that would be good news for my business. So don't always assume that you should go for numbers when you do this. If you get a list of numbers here don't always just choose the ones that have very high search numbers, because the lower searches are easier to come up in searches for. Okay, so that's the keywords. So you're basically using answer the public here. As I said, on the free version, you can only do about 1 or 2 searches a day, but you'll probably find that's enough. Do a search on what you do. It will tell you what sort of questions are being asked. Take the ones that you think you can answer, paste them into this searchvolume.io, find out how many searches are taking place on average per month, and then decide which ones you want to start answering. And then you write basically a piece of content that answers the question that someone is asking. Now, so this is what the content marketing strategy is about. You're writing content that doesn't just sit on your website forever. It's basically content that is really, really optimized for searches. Okay, so rather than just writing your website and just leaving it as a static piece of content, you're providing dynamic content that's written to answer the questions that people are asking right now. And of course, the other thing that Google likes is that when you have content that changes on your website, it gives it something to index. So when Google is indexing your website with new content, it will help it come up in searches more frequently. Right. So what sort of thing could you use a blog for? So some of the things you might use these keywords with are things like storytelling. Now, stories, they say, sell. Information tells, stories sell. That's one of the sayings they have in marketing. And it's absolutely true. When you tell a compelling story that tells people how you've solved a problem for someone else, or the kind of service that you provide, or what their lives are like with your service or product, it's much more likely to nurture them. It's much more likely to convince them, and it's much more likely to make them feel like you understand them. Content that resonates with your audience, content that makes you seem human, those are really effective types of content to write. You might write a blog that introduces new products or services, again, optimizing it for the keywords that people are typing in. Just as an example, at the moment, one of the biggest searches probably online is for masks, because we're all now required to wear them from next week in shops. So if you were selling masks, you would want to make sure that you had the right search terms in any content that you're writing for masks, designer masks, or people might be typing in masks that are lightweight, masks for the summer. You need to find out what the searches are so that you can optimize what your sales pages and your copy for the keywords that people are typing in. The thing that you might use your blog for is to provide advice in layman's terms. Okay, a lot of us have quite a lot of jargon in our businesses, and if you can give people great content that basically tells them how to do something, or tells them what it is you do in a very easy to digest way, it's likely to be more effective. And this, tips or tricks that show people how to do what you do, is absolutely a fantastic use of content. People often say, don't they, oh, you know, what is it you do? And you say, oh, I do such and such. And they say, oh, that sounds like a great business idea. I could do that. Sounds really easy. And when people think it's very easy, they don't see any value to what it is you provide. So if you show them how to do what you do, then often they realize the value of what you provide, and it helps them to buy from you. And of course, there will always be people that don't buy from you, but one of our uses of our own blog is to help people do the things that we provide as a service, so that the people that can't afford it can also move forward with their marketing. And if they move forward with it, there's a chance that even if they don't use your services, that they might tell someone else about you. So don't always think, well, you know, these people are not going to be using my services. I'm helping them to solve problems. they probably won't be my customers, there's a good chance if they think you're really good at what you do and they learn to do it for themselves with your help, there's a good chance they'll tell other people about you, and they may well be good prospects for your business. Now, instructions on how to do something, as I said, are highly effective, okay? And of course, as I've said, answering the questions that people are asking online, when people type in a search, if you've got those keywords in your blog posts, you're more likely to come up in a search on Google. Now, if you're writing a blog post, my advice in terms of word count is to make it around 300 to 500 words, okay? Don't make it too detailed. Don't make it pages and pages. If you've got a lot of content you want to share with people, then maybe split it up into separate blog posts and call them, you know, one of two, two of two, and say, and at the end of the first one, give people a reason to come back and read the second account that's coming up next, okay? But it has to be useful content, and it should be readable in less than 5 minutes. Even people that love to read, okay, if you go on and on and on and on in a blog post, they're likely to give up and go and find the answer from someone else. If you think about videos, I don't know, I'm sure a lot of you watch videos on YouTube. So when I click on a video for playing the guitar, it's not something that I do, I often am looking for how to play something. And when I get to a video that's supposedly coming up for the question that I've typed in, when I start to play the video, and if there's somebody sitting there going on and on about how fantastic they are and why I should be there, and if this is, you know, this is going to be the boom and all the rest of it, I'm off. You know, 10 seconds in, I'm like, if we're not getting to the answer quickly, I'm going to go and find someone else who's going to show me how to do this in an easy and digestible way. So just remember that you need to get to the answer real quick when you're writing content for the internet. So in terms of writing blog posts, best practice, write a plan. List the keywords that you're going to be using in your post. Make sure you have an introduction, a middle and conclusion. It's a bit like being at school, isn't it? You're writing this kind of almost like an essay. But essentially you need to get to the point quickly. Always include what we call a call to action. A call to action is where you tell people what action you want to take, you want them to take as a result of reading your content. So you might say, click here for more information, buy now, book here. Those kinds of things are calls to action, but include them towards the end of your blog posts. If you're writing content for your websites, then you can include calls to action anywhere because you want them to move around your website and get to what it is you want to sell them quickly. But with this, you want to generate some trust and credibility by asking them to read, for the most part, all of the content. Okay, so always include your links and your calls to action. Okay, so links and your calls to action towards the end of the blog post, whereas you can do that a bit earlier on web pages. Now, in the old days, they used to recommend repeating keywords several times. So up until about 5 years ago, lots of companies had keywords, what they call stuffed into their websites. Keyword stuffing is where you might say, I'm a locksmith and I'm based in Woolwich, Plumstead, Charlton, Greenwich, Enfield. And they basically comma separated all the key terms that they wanted people to search for. And that worked for a very, very long time. But about 5 years ago, everybody that had these keywords stuffed into their websites, they all lost their place on Google. They were coming up on page one, they lost their place overnight pretty much because Google decided to change their algorithms. And they decided to change their algorithms for something much more sophisticated. What they decided was that these people were coming up for searches for terms that really didn't give people any answers to the questions they were typing in. They were coming up for searches based on content that was really not very good quality. And so they decided that they wanted to focus on high quality content instead of all this keyword stuffing. So now, when you write your content, you can write your keyword with things like synonyms and variations. So I've taken an example here of the term promotional products. So if I wanted to use a synonym for promotional products, I might say promotional items, promotional merchandise. A variation of promotional products would be promotional items or promotional products or merchandising. Okay, all of those terms conjure up promotional products. Google also now wants you to provide context. So you might mention where you provide your products or services in Enfield or North London. Those kinds of terms, again, help provide context for the person that's searching. But most importantly, never ever lose sight of what information your audience was looking for in the first place. So always go back to what it is they were searching for. So those search terms, those keywords that you looked up on Answer the Public, what was the question that people were typing in? Always remember that's what you're answering and make sure that you do. The other thing that you can include in your content is co-occurrence, okay, where certain words make you think of the thing that you want people to think of. So, for example, when I say Africa animal mammal, king of the jungle, hopefully you're not going to say giraffe, okay? So, for example, with our promotional product, I might talk about sales, I might talk about marketing, I might talk about brand awareness, I might talk about giveaways. All of those terms help people find me, okay, based on the fact that those terms are related to what I'm talking about when talking about promotional products. So, of course, that's our lion. So just to give you an example of all of those things I just talked about. So when we're talking about promotional products, if we were writing a blog post, we might use terms like promotional products, obviously, promotional merchandising, promotional item, London in terms of the context of where we provide it, sales, marketing, brand awareness, and giveaways. Okay, so these are terms that I could use about promotional products, and basically Google will understand that's what I'm talking about. It's natural content that answers your reader's question, but also helps Google to understand the copy that you've written. Now, it's all very well doing all of these things. You're probably thinking to yourself, well, you know, I find some keywords, I answer some questions, I write some content. It's really important to know whether this is working. Now, there are some tools that you can use. Small SEO Tools is a really good tool. I'm going to show you that now. And what you can do with Small SEO Tools is you can find out where your website ranks on Google now for specific search terms. So I've got a nice little example to show you. So, Small SEO Tools. Now, Small SEO Tools is a really good, it's a free tool. You can pay for a paid version, but actually the free tool is absolutely fine. And they've got a number of tools that come with it. They've got things like text tools, and you can do things, the sorts of things that you can do in Word, like spell check. It can check copy for plagiarism and that kind of thing as well. It's even got things like image editing tools. You can make a logo here. It's got image compression tools. You can resize images. So if you need tools for images, for example, you can come here as well. And then they've got a bunch of keyword tools, which are really, really useful. So you've even got a keyword suggestions tool. So this is very similar to the tools that I showed you earlier, the Answer the Public. You can do a suggested keywords here. Okay, and it's even got a little keyword research tool as well. But the one I just want to show you today is this keyword position tool. Because before you start doing this, you need to know where your website ranks for certain keywords. So I'm just going to give you a quick example over here. So this is the keyword rank checker. And what you do is you type in keywords that you want to come up in searches for. You put in your website and you say which search engines you want to research. So we are only interested in the United Kingdom at the moment, but as Brexit occurs, you might decide that you want to look at other markets and see what searches are taking place from other countries. And basically, you type in one list of keywords here, up to 10, okay? And I've put in a number of searches here. You put your website in and you basically say check position. And what's going to happen is this tool is going to go away and analyze the website that I've put in and these keywords and tell me whereabouts we come up in searches for those keywords. So if I click check position, it's going to ask me for some verification. Let's do that. And basically it will tell me for each keyword where we come up in a search. I'm just going to leave that running for a few seconds just so you can see what happens. So the first one has come up here. So it's basically saying this keyword, business advice South East London, it's checking google.co.uk, coming up in searches on page 1 and position 2. So basically we're the second result of Google search for on page 1 for this search term. Okay, and all the other ones that I've typed in, it's given me the results for all of those as well. This one, position 5, page 1 again. Okay, so now if we wanted to come up a bit higher and try and rank for better for some of these searches, then we would consider doing a content marketing strategy, implementing that, and basically answering questions related to this search term. So I would maybe type this in. I put business support Greenwich into one of my keyword tools and see what other searches are taking place, and maybe include this search term in a piece of content. And that would help us come up and maybe move up over a period of time to a slightly better position in search. It's just finishing up now. Let's just finish 80%. So this is a great way to find out where you are now. And then what you do is you start your content marketing strategy, you start writing content, and every month or so you would come in and do this again. And what you'd expect to happen as you implement a content marketing strategy and write blog posts that answer the questions that people are typing in, you would expect that the position that you're in to change. You would hopefully start to come up higher in searches. And if you're not, it's because you're using a very generic search term, and actually it's very hard to rank for that search against people that are paying for Google AdWords. Okay, but as you can see here, we're coming up in the top 100 URLs, but basically keyword position 2, keyword position 5. And if I actually type this search into Google, I would expect our website to be coming up as the second result in this case. Right, I'm going to go back to my presentation. So it's been a very quick demonstration today of how to find keywords that you can answer questions for by typing blog posts into your websites. I hope it's been helpful. Basically, it's important that you know that writing for the web requires a strategy, okay? And this strategy should meet the demands of your online prospects. You're answering the questions or keywords, if you like, that they're typing into search engines. And it's important because, as I said, you know, with all these companies that lost their placing on Google searches, it's important to know what Google's algorithms are currently about. And so at the moment, they've got this new algorithm called BERT. I've got a link there in my presentation. You can go and read about BERT. But basically, we're looking for natural language now. Natural language that answers people's questions, using keywords that people are typing in. And by having a content marketing strategy with content that's being added to your website on a regular basis, provides dynamic content for Google to re-index. And if you're answering questions that people are clicking through to and reading, then Google is more likely to show your website to more people because you're answering the questions that they are asking. So you're providing relevant content for the current search terms that are taking place on Google. Okay, so I've actually finished my presentation. Let me just go through here. There's contact details here for Enterprise Enfield, for Despina's organisation there that's provided this presentation today. I'm going to stop now and open up for questions. If you'd like to unmute yourselves, and I'll pass back to Despina to facilitate that.
Thank you, Lorraine. Right. Well, that was fascinating. I think it was very technical, Lorraine. I think we've all learned a lot from that. I think it would be really good if people can ask their questions by chat. Are you able to take the presentation down?
Yeah, I'll do that now. There you go.
Now I can see people. So if you have a question, you can either raise the blue hand or put it through chat. So I'll have a look at chat and see what we've got here. All right, lots of thank yous. All right, we'll see if any more come. Any hands up? I mean, I don't know if anyone has attempted a blog and just wants some advice on that. I've never tried, so I think I'm inspired to now.
Good.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
Blogs is something which I know is something that I want to do, but there is a bit of, I feel a bit overwhelmed. And what is the, you said that something, the word maximum words of 500, did you say that? Was it the?
I think it depends on what you're writing about. Obviously, sometimes people, as you say, it can be overwhelming to think that you've got to write a lot of words. I would say, 300 words is fine. I mean, I think the purpose of blog posts really are you're trying to give people a bit more detailed information. So when we write things like social media posts, for example, we send out a short post. Those posts tend to just kind of tickle people's understanding, don't they? But this is really about providing what we call thought leadership. So it's about providing a bit more insight into your expertise. So it's an opportunity to get over how much you know by using a keyword that people are typing in, but then demonstrating that you're an expert. So that's the purpose of it to a large extent. So if you put too few words, then it may be a bit too light.
I quite like, I didn't realize there was this small SEO tools. I think that is actually, in fact, I'm going to look at it, and thank you for mentioning it.
You're
because
welcome.
I mean, I'm a life coach and mentor, and there is so much. So being able to, for me to choose the right keywords is really fundamental.
It is.
So I think that's something that I'm going to, to look at that. Yes. And in terms of frequency, because I mean, I have a website, of course, and I mean, where should the blogs ideally go on?
Okay, so
silly question.
So normally what people have is they have a blog section, and if you've got a website, normally what happens is with website software, I don't know what software you use. Do you use WordPress?
Yes.
WordPress. Okay, so WordPress is perfect because WordPress was actually developed as a blogging platform to start with. So when you implement the blog part on WordPress, it basically puts the most recent post at the top. Okay, but you can call it blog. Some people call it news.
Yeah.
Depends what it is you want to call it. I know a lot of people call it news.
Update, tips,
tips, whatever, depending on what it is you want to use it for. So if you decide you want it to just be providing advice and tips, you might just call it advice and tips or tips.
Sorry to interrupt. We've got 3 questions on the chat now. Andrea is can you read them, Lorraine? She's saying, is there any?
Oh, sorry. Just
right, yeah, do you want me to read them out?
Is there a place to allocate the keywords blog posts? Right, okay. So in the old days, I say in the old days, it wasn't that long ago, we used to basically advise people to put the keywords in the top third of their post. So you would try and work the keyword in about 3 times in the first paragraph. And they don't have to be in the exact order that you find them. So if it was Brexit for business, and that was what I wanted to answer, I could type big Brexit and business. I could put business Brexit I could put them a few words apart and it would still work as a keyword. But no, the answer is basically no. Now, Google now is looking for the fact that you've answered the question that people have typed in. As long as you've worked the keyword in somewhere, you might even call the title the keyword. Okay, so you might even say Brexit for business, or how Brexit will impact business. Let's say we're going to use that one. I might call my blog post how business will be impacted by Brexit, for example. Okay, and I'll still come up in searches for the keyword. But you don't have to work it in many times. As I said, you can use things like synonyms, you can use variations. Google is looking for natural language now. So just work the keyword in once if you can somewhere, but it doesn't matter where. Okay, I hope that answers your question. Not absolutely sure. Is there a preference on which social media to post a blog? Is it best on website, Instagram? Okay, so typically, let me just make sure I've got the question correct. Typically, you would write a blog on your website because it's more detailed content and it would sit on your website. With Instagram and Facebook and so on, what you normally do is you distribute the blog posts on the other channels. So basically, you would talk about the blog on your website and you'd use those channels to drive traffic to the content. So you would take the link to your blog post inside the blog post itself, not the top level of your blog, but the blog post that you're talking about. You would take the link to it and you would add that to a social media post and you would say, we've just written a blog post on the impact of Brexit on UK businesses. You can read more here. And that after here, you would put the link in to the full blog post that people could click on. Now on Instagram, that won't work in an actual post. But what I would suggest is you would put that in your bio. You would change the link in your bio on Instagram. And you would say, check out our blog post on Brexit and the impact of it on UK businesses. The link is in our bio, okay? And then people know to go to your bio to go through to the content. Now with LinkedIn, if you're a business-to-business provider, then LinkedIn can have a blog post loaded onto your actual profile. So my advice is you put the blog post still on your website and you can create posts on LinkedIn, like the ones I've just spoken about, where you provide a link. After a few days of having it on your website, there's no reason why on your personal LinkedIn profile, and it only works on a personal profile, not a LinkedIn business page. On your LinkedIn personal profile, you can go into where it says write an article. Okay, if you have a look where you post on LinkedIn, it says write an article. There's no reason why you can't click on that and copy the content from your blog post onto an article on LinkedIn and publish it there. It's a really good way of using blog posts on LinkedIn. Not absolutely sure about the use of hashtag next to a search word. Okay, so the hashtags tend to be used on, so hashtags are subject classifications. If you want to search for hashtags on something like Instagram, then you just put the hash and the words that you want to search by. You don't necessarily have to use hashtags on your blog posts because blog posts are about actual detailed content answering search terms, not necessarily related to hashtags. I hope that answers that question. I recently qualified as a fitness instructor with nutrition. I want to start a blog, health and wellness for women in midlife. Would you recommend focusing on one or two areas or providing a more general blog? So the question is, I recently qualified as a fitness instructor with nutrition. I want to start a blog on health and wellness. Would I recommend focusing on one or two areas or providing a more general blog? So my answer to that really is, if you are specializing in a specific area, it's probably better to focus your blog on the specific area that you're providing. So if you're providing services and you're saying you're providing for women in particular, then make the blog post about them. Because if they come to your blog and they find information that isn't relevant to them, they may feel that it's not as useful. So I would try and focus on what their searches are. So looking for those kinds of searches that women are making at that particular time in their life.
Okay, we've got about 5 minutes, so I don't know if anyone else has a question. No?
Just checking.
Oh, there's something, yeah. Something.
Hello. Hi, it's John Paul here. It's all right to ask a question about if you start writing these blogs and you're getting all the keywords in, what sort of time frame would you expect to start seeing an improvement, and where would you see that improvement? Is it in analytics? How would I know that it's working?
So there are a couple of ways. One is that you would do that. So you would, before you start, you'd put the keywords that you've decided to answer into the small SEO tools to see where you're ranking now, and you probably expect not to be ranking at all. And then what I would suggest is you choose the keywords that you want to use, and then you would come back and check maybe after a month or so. Okay. And if your position has changed, then you know it's working. Now, as I said, some keywords will never work. Okay. If I decided I want to rank for Brexit on its own, not going to happen. Okay. Because lots of companies will be paying for Google ads. I'm not going to, but if I take specific types of questions that I can answer, then there's a good chance that after a few weeks, I might start to see my position moving. Brilliant. Okay. And of course, your analytics, like your Google Analytics, say if you've got that on your website, if people are clicking through to your website, you should see an increase in search, not so much search traffic, but click-throughs.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And thank you for all those really useful tips. I've come away with some stuff that I can actually apply now, and you're clearly an expert. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
We've got two, I think, final questions now. One was from Andrea and also Elaine.
Now that you mentioned the Insta bio, do you need to manually change your bio every time you want to lead people to a particular piece of information? Or no, you have to do it manually. So if you want to change your Instagram bio, it is a manual change. There isn't any software that can do that for you, unfortunately. I recommend that most of the things that you do on social is live, it's human, it's you, even, where we look after other people's accounts, we still do it human as them, which we try to make sure that everything is answered in a way that isn't kind of automated or robots or that kind of thing. Because actually, there's a great guy called Mark Schaefer, who's a big sort of marketing guru in the States. And he recently said that the most human company wins. And I completely agree with that, actually. Social media now, marketing, all the online stuff we do at the moment is about being human. And actually, with the pandemic, for example, the companies that added value, that did something over and above what they did for businesses during this pandemic, they'll be remembered for what they provided in terms of humanity, as opposed to what they do as business owners. So being human on social media and on blog posts is going to make people want to buy from you more, because what they want is to find companies that they feel resonate with them as people, because people still buy from people at the end of the day. So I would say that yes, getting back to your question, you have to change it manually. I'm sorry about that. If I find a tool that does it, I'll definitely let you know. Okay, so I'd be really interested to know your background, Lorraine. How did you be an expert? Okay, so my background was in IT. Originally, I used to work for the University of Greenwich and then Imperial College. And about 10 years ago, I decided to come out and start my own company. Started off as a training company, and we've added some consultancy and social media management to our services along the way. So it's one of those things that's pretty much self-taught. We've learned it as we've gone along, and we love Google's algorithms. So that's my favorite thing to read. Bedtime reading, a little bit of, BERT and what Google currently wants from our searches. So that's my background. Don't worry. Uber suggests free tool to check how a website is doing. Is that tool accurate? Andrea, the free tool, do you mean just if you can tell me which tool? to check how your website is doing? Is that the small SEO tools? Well, I think she's saying that she would uber suggest using the free tools to check how your website is doing. Is that tool accurate? Yes, all those tools are accurate. They are industry standard tools that, you know, SEO companies, for example, use. Any more questions that I can answer?
All right, I think we'll bring the session to a close, but I just wanted to say thank you, Lorraine. You've been absolutely fantastic. I think we've all learned a lot and gained a lot, all builds of confidence. And what I did want to say as well, that these webinars are being delivered on behalf of Local London, and there is going to be a third one, and I think it's going to be in September. But if you look at the Local London website, they will have details of that. And the title for that is going to be How to Get Found Faster on Google. So another really useful webinar coming up. And I just want to add that obviously Enterprise Enfield is an enterprise agency, and we're really concerned about business at this time. There are free enterprise agencies in the Local London area. There's ourselves, there's South East Enterprise, and there's also Barking Enterprise Centre. So if you need help, do contact one of those enterprise agencies, because if they can't help you directly, they will at least be able to signpost you to a trusted partner that can help. And I'm sure that there will be ways that they can help. I mean, if anyone wants to come to us, they can. We've got a free telephone service now that we're offering to SMEs, and you know, you're welcome to try that. And our website is www.enterpriseenfield.org. So I wish you, thank you very much for attending. I hope you gained a lot from it, and I wish you every success going forward and getting through this really difficult time. Thank you.
Thank you.